Readeroo, can you hear me?
You can. I can. Can
Let's
you hear
go.
me?
I can.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Let's go.
A little emergency episode here.
hmm
What
hmm
exactly transpired, Reed? Did some good news happen?
Well, that depends on your definition of good news. But I'm driving home from Louisville. Got an early day. Got to come back here. It's pouring rain, and I get news that the Bengals made an in-season trade for Joe Flacco, and it's going to be Joe Flacco and a sixth round pick for our fifth round pick. And Stone, as I'm hopping on here, I don't know what your initial reaction to this, because I've got a lot of thoughts, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, look, they had to do something, right? I mean, we saw the product that was out on the football field with Jake Browning. It wasn't good. We gave it a couple of weeks, and it seemingly was getting worse and worse each week. I think it culminated with the 3 interceptions, obviously, at home against Detroit. They were all ugly. Seemingly each and every one got a little bit uglier as time went on. We sat here earlier in the week, and we were like, yo, they can't win with Jake Brown. They have to fix something here, and they have to bring in somebody new, because you and I both agreed Brett Rippon, he wasn't going to do the trick. Sean Clifford, he wasn't going to do the trick either. Now, is Joe Flacco going to do the trick? I don't know, right? Behind this offensive line, right, he's kind of a statue at this point in his career. He might get lit up, and he might only make it a couple of drives, but I'm happy that they're showing some effort here to try to get this thing fixed. I don't know. You seem like one of those people that's all like, oh, we're now gonna win 5 or 6 games and we're gonna have a worse pick. That's not really what I'm worried about here at this point. I'm trying to be as competitive as possible, and I think Flacco gives you an opportunity to do that. He's bounced around. He's been a journeyman, right? And seemingly he's been able to pick up quickly and get to work and be productive. And with these weapons that he has, I don't know. Am I gonna sit here and say playoffs are back on? Absolutely not. But do I feel a little bit better with Joe Flacco at quarterback than Jake Browning? Yes, I do. And I don't think there should be even a question whether or not who is the starter against Green Bay. I get he's getting here. He's not even here yet, and they play in a few days.
Oh, wow.
But he absolutely should be that guy out there. Maybe, I'm sure he is here at some point, but when's he going to practice? I don't know. Is he going to be practicing today? I don't know. But he needs to be out there Sunday, and I feel better with Joe Flacco than I do with Jake Brown.
Yeah, I mean, it's to think that he's going to start this Sunday feels kind of very quick.
Yeah.
But then again, they're 2 touchdown underdogs, so what's it matter? You're going in there like, it's not like we're in a good spot to win with Jake Browning anyway, so
Yeah.
you might as well. And you're bringing in the Packer killer.
Yeah.
The Packer killer.
He already
the man
beat him.
who beat the Packer 2 weeks ago, baby. This is a Packer. No, so here's my thoughts on this. And you've already alluded to what you think I'm going to say, which is nice. It means you know me a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is nice that when we went out and got a quarterback to replace the mightily struggling Jake Browning, that we got someone that can navigate around a pocket that's going to collapse very quickly, because that's in Joe Flacco's nimble age of 40, whatever he is. He's very fast. He's going to be able to move away from some would-be assailants, some would-be sackers. So I'm really encouraged by the thought of Joe Flacco moving around our terrible offensive line. But okay, so let's be real about a few things. Does Joe Flacco give the Bengals a better chance to win week in and week out? I think at this moment, without watching Joe Flacco play for the Bengals yet, I think it's safe to assume that answer is a yes. I think that is safe to assume based off of what we've seen at Jake Browning, which, by the way, Jake, I love you, kid, but think about how poorly Jake Browning had to play these past few weeks, how terrible he had to play to force our Bengals team, our beloved Bengals, to make an in-season trade. Like, that's how terrible he was. It wasn't hyperbole when we were walking away on Sunday going, like, I think that was the worst quarterback game I've ever seen from a Cincinnati Bengals quarterback. So that's how terrible he was. But as for Joe Flacco, it's pretty clear that he gives us a better shot to win. To win how many games? I don't know. The AFC North is seemingly open. I know you and Trace were talking about it on the show today. The Baltimore Ravens, being 1-4 and likely going to be 1-5 after this weekend, they're still the favorites to win this division because no one trusts the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. The Cleveland Browns are bad. Maybe slightly better than us Bengals, but they're bad. So the Bengals are looking at this, already winners of two out of their first 5 games, and they're saying, hey, I think we can still compete here. We've got an easy schedule in the back half of the schedule. We can get this done. We can win some games and be competitive. Maybe Joe Burrow comes back in December. We make this thing interesting, and that's what they're trying to do. And what did it cost them? It cost them about moving 2 rounds back in the draft because they essentially traded an early 5th-round pick, assuming that the Bengals aren't overly competitive. Maybe Joe Flacco wins, and it's a middle round, 5th-round pick for a late 6th-round pick because it's going to be coming from the Detroit Lions it's the Detroit Lions spot in the draft. It's coming from the Browns. So is it worth going and getting an established quarterback, however old he is, however depleted his talent might be, but someone who more than anything can kind of just distribute the rock to our fantastic, talented wide receivers and skill positions? I guess I'm cool with it. I guess I'm cool with moving essentially a round and a half to 2 rounds back to win some more games, be more competitive, give you a better chance to play. Did I imagine this would ever happen? No, which is why on the show, I always, anytime we talk about this, I'm like, guys, cut it out. Cut it out because this is not how the Bengals operate. So I guess we'll see. I don't think he's going to play this Sunday. I don't care if he plays this Sunday off three days of practice. I mean, it's not like we have some advanced scheme here in Cincinnati that it's going to take him a long time to learn. It's not like it's a nuanced offense. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, that's just my initial thoughts is that it's pretty clear that Joe Flacco is going to give us a better chance to win. To win how many games, I don't know.
Yeah. So you would say you're happy with this move, or are you a little? Did you want to go with Browning? I mean, it seemed like you and I both, just throughout the course of the past couple of days, were about done with Jake Browning. So, would you say you're happy with this move? Look, we don't need to be over the moon
feel like
here.
I'm not like over the moon here. I guess it's a curiosity thing. I think that's the emotion that I'm feeling right now. I wouldn't say it's happiness. It's more of I'm curious how this works out. Like truly curious. I guess you can't be upset about it because what are we losing? We're losing a round and a half, and I know guys that are really into the draft will tell you a lot of good talent is still in the 5th round. But here in Cincinnati,
we're not going to pick the right guy.
We're not hitting at a very high rate there in the late rounds. Who's the last time that we've gotten anybody productive in the 5th round? Evan McPherson, I think, was a 5th or 6th round pick.
Yeah.
Andre
Josh Newton,
Yoshibas.
I mean, what do we got with him? Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not like it's something that we're not getting Puka Nakuas here in Cincinnati.
Right.
We're not getting Amon-Ra St. Brown's. I don't even know what round. I think he was like a 3rd round pick. But it's not like we're hitting at a super high rate. So I don't know. It's the happiness, I guess, is as close to an emotion that if you want to pin it and say that is, I think curiosity is the main thing. Is like, we'll see how it works out. We've got 2 really tough games to start these 2 weeks. Do I think he's going to light the world on fire? No. Do I think we're going to win either of the next 2 games? No. But maybe we'll look a little bit better, and maybe we'll be more competitive against the teams like the Jets and the Bears. What about are you happy with this move?
Yeah, look, we talked about it throughout the week. Like something needed to change. You couldn't just the Jake Browning thing had run its course. We only could sit there for so long and say, well, he went 4-3 as a starter in 2023. Clearly, with a worse offensive line here and no run game, people forget about that. Like that Bengals team in 23, they could run the football a little bit, and Jake Browning was able to lean on that a little bit. And it's not a complete knock on Jake Browning. How many quarterbacks can go out there and be successful with the caliber of offense line Cincinnati has? Their lack of creativity on offense from a play calling perspective and no run game. There's not very many people on the planet that could do that. But at the end of the day, he was undrafted for a reason. I think you're starting to kind of see why over the course of the past few weeks. And with the talent that you have on this team, and some would say, well, there's not much talent on this team. Well, I know for certain that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are 2 of the best wide receivers in the National Football League, and Jamar Chase is the best wide receiver in the National Football League. And you allocated all those resources to them, and you're spending all that money. And this is just year 1 of that. Like they just got their extension a couple of months ago. You can't afford to sit here in this spot and just punt on that. You have to at least say, okay, we got to switch something up at that quarterback position and at least try to give us an opportunity to perhaps be in a position where Joe Burrow could come back later in the year. And clearly that was not going to happen with Jake Browning. And I'm just happy that the organization was able to recognize that and do something about it. Because it wouldn't have surprised us in the slightest if they would have, because Zach's kind of been teasing like, oh, we don't know if Browning's going to be the guy this week at all. But would you have been surprised whatsoever if they went out Wednesday practice and Jake Browning was getting all the snaps with the ones and they just ran it back another week? That wouldn't have surprised anybody, even in the slightest. So the fact that they're making a move like this, it's borderline unprecedented for this team, right? Of course, they made a move at the deadline last year, 7th-round pick for Khalil Herbert. I don't even remember the time that they last made a move like that in the season prior to that move last year with Herbert. But then to make a move like this inside your division, too. I mean, with the Cleveland Browns. The last time they tried to get a trade with the Browns was in 2017, and obviously that trade with A.J. McCarron fell through. They couldn't figure out how to work the fax machine or whatever the case may be. I don't even remember exactly what transpired there.
They tanked that one. They purposely did not get that one in because that was a terrible trade for them.
Right. But, to get a move with Cleveland, I mean, you find, who else would you have rather had? I know some people would say Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson, but honestly, I would rather take Joe Flacco than Russell Wilson, right? I mean, Joe, you don't think so?
That.
I'm just talking big picture. And
all
that Russ is going to bring at the podium and is just corniness that doesn't belong here in Cincinnati. Joe Flacco is a football guy, has been for a long time, has played a lot of football, has played high-level football, has played in this division. How about that? I mean, now he's played for every team in the division apart from Pittsburgh, so he understands what the division is like. The Bengals obviously have a ton of games left in the division here, and I think there's reason to be excited. I mean, is the season back on? Or the Bengals going to the playoffs? Let's not get carried away here, but you feel better about their opportunities to win some games going forward today than you did earlier this morning with just Jake Browning.
Yeah, so I never even really thought deeply about any of the potential guys that we could have gotten, like the Russell Wilson or the Jameis Winston, Kirk Cousins, you name them, because I never really thought this was on the table. I never really thought this was something that the Bengals would do. So let me ask you a question, Stone. Does this feel like a move of desperation from Zach Taylor or Duke Tobin, whoever's calling the shots? Does this feel like there's some pressure on Zach and he's like, hey, you guys got to get me some help? Do you feel like this is a move where Duke Tobin's like, man, I got some pressure on me to start winning. My job might be on the chopping block if we don't get some wins here. If this thing spirals out of control, we got to make a move. Does this feel like a move of desperation?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, to be honest with you. I know lots of other teams around the league, right? If Zach Taylor was the coach of basically any other team, he would be gone by now, right? Duke Tobin, if he was the GM, even though they won't even give him that title, the director of player personnel, if he had that position anywhere else, he would be gone by now. Were the Brown family, the Blackburns, were they going to make a move at some point and fire those guys? I mean, if they continue to get blown out, maybe, but my gut says they probably were going to hang on to him and give him another opportunity with Joe Burrow. I think the way they're evaluating this is they're sitting there going, we're 2-3. And now me and you and pretty much everybody that watches this team, they're a lot worse than 2-3. They easily should be, you could argue, 0-5, right? But the Bengals are looking at it and going, we're 2-3. Baltimore, who's been world beaters the past couple of years, they're 1-4. We had a better record than them. And Pittsburgh, yeah, they're 3-1, but that offensive line isn't very good, and Aaron Rodgers is 50 years old, and he might not make it through the entirety of the season. So in their mind, as competitors, they believe that there's still an opportunity here to be in it in a situation where Joe Burrow could come back. And they have to think that way, right? As fans, we can sit here and be negative and just be a little bit more realistic. But with them, they have to be in a spot where they're going, okay, we can still, we're 2-3, we can still do this. There's some winnable games on the schedule. And I think that's what they were doing here in this situation. I don't think it was necessarily an act of desperation. I think they sat there and they evaluated the situation and said, you know what, there's a guy here in Joe Flacco that gives us a better opportunity to win than the guy that we have right now. Let's go out and get him and see what happens. And I applaud them for making that move, because the Bengals a couple of years ago, they just kind of curl up in a ball and the season kind of explodes in their face. But they're at least trying, and they deserve a little bit of credit for that, in my opinion. And like I said earlier, yeah, would I have taken Jameis Winston over Flacco? Yeah, probably. But, I mean, if you're ranking all the guys that realistically you could have went after and actually got, I think Flacco's got to be at the top of that list, to be honest with you.
Well, the list is about 5 people deep, and I don't know if any of those make the Bengals considerably better.
Yeah.
Even the Jameis Winston guy or anything like that. So, listen, Flacco. I think I would have rather had a Jameis Winston. I think I would have rather had a Russell Wilson. I think we all know that Kirk Cousins wasn't going to come play here because the Bengals weren't going to pick up that tab. They weren't going to pick up the $40 million or whatever the Falcons owe him.
Yeah.
So I think Flacco's actually at the bottom of my list, and when you start listing them out. But I do think this is kind of a place of desperation. I do think this is them, Duke Tobin, and Zach Taylor getting in a room and going, listen. And once again, I'll say it again, Jake. That's how bad Jake Browning played these past few weeks, to where he forced the Bengals to do something unprecedented, which is go and make a mid-season trade, go make an in-season trade. So I do think that this was Duke Tobin or Zach Taylor getting in a room and going, guys, this might get really bad. And we put a lot of chips in the table. We put a lot of chips on this bet of this season, including $30 million to Trey Hendrickson, to where if we don't start competing, we're going to have to get rid of him. And they don't want to do that. They don't want to have to get rid of him. They don't want to have to trade him away. So that's what they're making this move. Maybe they can win a couple games before the trade deadline. I don't know. We will see. I think it's crazy to think that he would be playing this Sunday, but maybe I'm wrong. And then you got the quick turnaround for the Steelers game. But to the point that you were making, and the point that I'll echo home, which is this Bengals team does look ahead, and they go, we've got a game against the Jets. We've got a game against the Cardinals. We've got a game against the Miami Dolphins. Like, in theory, those should be 3 wins. And you start counting up, like, how can we get wins? And they go, on top of that, this division's kind of up for the grabs, and we have 5 division games left. And we have an elite quarterback potentially coming back in the middle of December. Can we hold water? Can we sit here? Can we win some games? And can we make this a competitive season and kind of get people excited once again in this city? Because based off the way they played the last 3 weeks, any excitement that they had before Joe Burrow went down has just, I mean, the wind is completely out of the sails. We're drifting in the middle of the ocean, and I guess Joe Flacco's our life preserver. I guess Joe Flacco is our tugboat that's going to bring us back to shore, and we'll see how it plays out. I'll tell you what, the betting line for this Sunday is 14 points. We'll get a good read. We'll get a good read on what the bookmakers think of the Joe Flacco move, based on to see how that line moves around. I don't anticipate that to move by a point at all, but I've obviously been wrong many a times already this season.
So you said something that was interesting. It doesn't seem like you think he's going to play Sunday against Green Bay. Maybe something has broke on social media or Twitter that has an answer for us now. I don't know, but you don't think he's going to play Sunday?
He's not going to get here. He's not going to be at his first practice till Wednesday.
Right.
They're going to have to travel.
Yeah.
So let's. I admittedly I don't know the week. How it works with the Cincinnati Bengals. I know every team's a little differently. Like, hey, we do this on Monday, we do this on Tuesday, we do this on
the first
on
practice is Wednesday this week.
Okay, so they're gonna travel Saturday? They're gonna leave Saturday morning. If I had to guess, maybe even Friday, to get to Green Bay. So have 2 practice team. He's gonna have 2 practices with the team before they move. So, but also like at the same point that I brought up earlier. What's it matter? You're 2 touchdown underdogs. It's the biggest spread in the NFL this week. It's probably the second biggest spread in the NFL this season. So, like, you're already up against it. So might as well just go ahead and ride with him, and maybe he'll get ready. Maybe it's not even about the Green Bay game. Maybe you're just letting him go out there and figure it out. That way you're ready for Thursday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and, you got a division game. And maybe that's why he'll play on Green Bay. But it seems just knee-jerk reaction. It seems crazy to think that he'll play Sunday unless they're just going like, hey, we're going to lose anyways. Might as well play with Joe Flacco, and we'll get him ready for Thursday.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think those are all good points there. I think me personally, I'm going to roll the dice and say he's going to play Sunday. if they're making this move, they're giving up a 5th-round pick, which to me is like, whatever at this point. Like, we're sitting here on October 7th. I'm fine giving up a 5th-round pick. But obviously, if an organization that loves their draft picks, is very stingy about their draft picks, it seems like if they're going to make a move like that, they're not going to let this thing go another week where they potentially don't throw him out there. And then next thing you know, you're looking up, you're 2-4. Okay, now there's even, less room for error. And I'm not sitting here making the argument saying that I believe that, Joe Flacco plays, they're going to beat Green Bay. Not saying that at all, but I do think it would, if they're making a move like this, let's go to him, right? It's not like the guy hasn't played football this year. He was the starter for the Browns until a couple of weeks ago, right? Before last week when Dylan Gabriel took over. So, obviously it's a new system, all that stuff. He's got to learn, whatever. He's been around the block. I think he'll pick it up better than anybody, but it's not like he hasn't played football.
Well, it's also like I don't think we're breaking the mold on schemes here in Cincinnati.
True.
I don't think anyone's like, man, this is an elaborate scheme.
It's tough to pick up.
Listen, I was on Algebra 1 and we're doing chemistry in here. Yeah. We're doing trig. Yeah. Like I don't think it's anything like that. So it's not like it's going to be the most advanced thing to run in the world. So I'm with you that. At this point, what's it matter? We'll see. I mean, we'll know within the next 24 hours, probably. Yeah. We might know by the end of this evening about what they're planning on doing. So We'll see, I guess.
Now, one other thing that my mind immediately went to, and let me know what you think on this if I'm just being, optimistic for no reason, but making a move like this shows to me that they feel like there's a chance number 9 could come back. Do you think that goes hand in hand at all? Because to me, like, they know, right? Obviously, he's got a rehab. It's a toe. Like, we'll see what happens. But in their mind, I think they have an idea of whether or not he can actually come back or not. And it would be hard for me to imagine that they would make a move like this if they knew for sure he wasn't coming back. What do you say to that?
It's everything I've read. I respect you looking at this, trying to read through the tea leaves and finding the positive spin. Everything I've read on what Joe Burrow went through says that the most optimistic outlook is that he's going to play the final 3 weeks of the season. Like, that's the most optimistic, that he's going to be ready here. And based off of the way, and Joe recovered from the ACL very quickly. He apparently recovered from the wrist. Kind of on par. I know there was that weird Twitter doctor that always was saying he'll never be the same, and then he went out and had the best season of his career last year. So I guess I can't speculate on how good Joe is at recovering. Yeah, I mean, like, if you're trying for a positive spin, sure, but I don't think it's that deep, as the kids say. I don't think it's that deep. I just think that they are trying to keep this thing alive, and I think that they said, like, hey, we've got some chips on the table here with Trey Hendrickson and some other guys, that we have to keep this alive as long as we currently can. And more than I think this is truly the biggest thing this is about is how terrible Jake was. Like, how historically bad he was at moving the football these past 3 weeks. Even that fourth quarter where they score, that's all great, all well and dandy. But for the previous, 11 quarters that he played as our starting quarterback, it was the worst quarterback play in the NFL. And that's saying something with all those starting quarterbacks down. So I think they kind of were forced their hand. And if I had to guess, there was an exact moment in the game, because you normally, you can take in all these things and you can deliberate decisions as long as you can. There's normally one offsetting thing where you go, okay, yeah, we got to make this move. And my guess is it was either that interception to start the third quarter or interception at the end of the first half, where Zach Taylor just thought in his head, we've got to go get a new quarterback. We've got to go get a new quarterback. Or maybe it was Duke Tobin, yeah, this can't happen. This no longer can happen. So I don't know. We will see, I guess, is the grand scheme of things. I guess get excited because your Cincinnati Bengals made an in-season trade for a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback. So a Super Bowl winning quarterback. That's the headline in the Evening Post for the Cincinnati Bengals is Bengals trade for Super Bowl winning quarterback. Maybe we'll get John Harbaugh next year when they fire him, and then we'll just run it back with the entire 2012 Ravens. Ask if Ray Lewis is available, and maybe the other Ray
Suggs,
too.
Get them all back.
Yeah, maybe the other Ray isn't available, but Ray
Right.
Lewis might be.
Yeah. Yeah. That other Ray, he had some issues. But as it relates to
Just a
this,
few.
as it relates to this offensive line, let's talk specifically about that. Joe Flacco doesn't move. Right now, he's tough and he can take some shots. He's a big
No,
dude and he's not easy to take down. Like,
he's
what is
big.
your
Good arm.
like? How do you think this is going to go? Is he going to get the ball out of his hands quick enough? Is he going to get sacked a million times? Is he going to get hurt? Is he going to get drilled? Because I know you don't think necessarily he's going to play against Green Bay. I'm a little bit on the other side. I do, but I'm looking at this. I got Rashawn Gary. I got Micah Parsons. You may have heard of him. Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker, those linebackers. I mean, they're going to get after it. And the Bengals got two rookies on that offensive line, and Jalen Rivers and Dylan Fairchild, and their left tackle that they're paying all this money absolutely stinks. How is he going to look behind this offensive line?
So it's a tale of two things, right? Two conflicting things. Joe Flacco is significantly better at deep balls than Jake Browning. Jake Browning did not have the arm strength. Joe Flacco in his 40s still has better arm strength. And he's bigger and taller, so he can throw it over the middle of the field, which I think is a great advantage for this Bengals offense, especially with all the weapons that we have. Jake Browning really couldn't do that. Jake Browning did not go over the field all that often. He normally just worked on the sideline. So that's great for Joe Flacco, and that's great for our offense that pairs pretty well with us. The problem is, for those plays, either deep threats or over the middle, they typically take some time to develop, take some time to develop. And with our offensive line and the inability for Joe Flacco to move, I don't know if he's going to have that time. If he does, I think we're going to be just fine. I think we're going to move the ball very, very well, and I think he's going to make smart, wise decisions, and maybe some bold things, take shots downfield. But the problem is we're going to have to probably get him some extra protection. We're going to have to use Samaje Perine, Drew Sample in ways to be a sixth man back there to help protect Joe Flacco. And I guess we'll see. I think that we will see both things come to light. I think we will see big plays to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Andre Yoshivas and Mike Gesicki over the middle of the field, downfield. I also think that we are going to see a lot of balls thrown away and a lot of sacks because Joe Flacco is going to have to get rid of it, or he's going to take his lumps. And I think we're going to see both things. Hopefully it's the former and not the latter more of.
Yep, absolutely. And I know you got to run here soon, but last question for you. When you look at the schedule, as we've broken down the schedule a million times, does this get you any more wins? Do you win any more games because of this?
First thing I said when I hopped on here was that this team is in a better spot to win with Joe Flacco than Jake Browning. I truly believe that at this moment. We'll see how I feel in about 3 weeks. I'll give it at least to the Bears or the Jets game. My arm is getting so tired, as you can tell. I'm moving around holding this phone. I'm trying to anchor it the best I can. I think maybe Owen. Like, I think that the same teams that we win with Jake Browning, whenever I do the math of how we get to the postseason, I circle those last 3 games, which gets us to 5 wins. I circle the Jets game, which gets us to 6 wins. And then I go, where can we find 3 more wins? Where can I find 3 more wins on this schedule? Okay, we split with the Steelers. Okay, that gets us to 7. Where can we get 2 more wins? Is it the Bears? Is it the Patriots? I think with Joe Flacco, you get 1 more win. I think with Joe Flacco, you can get 1 more.
Okay.
Do you think this gets us more wins?
Yeah, I do. I do personally. What you have, it wasn't even close with Jake Browning, and I know it's going to be a little closer with Joe Flacco. And he showed that earlier this year. Was he great? Is he a top quarterback? No. Is he the bottom quarterback in the league? Maybe. But he's still a starter caliber quarterback. Jake Browning's not. I don't even know if he's going to be a backup anymore going forward. So it's a significant upgrade at that position. I think there's reason to be excited about it. We're going to make the playoffs and go on this crazy run. We don't need to get carried away, but there's reason. I feel better. Again, you think he might not play Sunday, but I feel better flipping the TV on and I see Joe Flacco instead of Jake Browning.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get a big league effort. You're going to get a professional effort. I'll finish with this question because you just talked about Jake Browning and if he's going to be a backup anymore. How much money has Jake Browning lost by having to play this year?
Yeah.
Like truly, because he was, based off of what he did in 2023, he was on his way to being a 12, 13-year, 10-year backup in this league, to where he'll always be on some team and they'll always give him a shot, and he'll be able, I don't know what the average backup makes. I don't know what Jake Browning's making, but he can go ahead and count that into his bank account this year. But based off of what we've seen in the 3.5 games that he's played this year, he's clearly not got it. He's clearly not got it to be a NFL level quarterback. He doesn't have the arm strength, doesn't have the decision making, doesn't have athleticism, doesn't have the accuracy. He's pretty much missing on everything there. I don't know what the heck happened in 2023, but
had a bit of a run game.
It's pretty clear. It's pretty clear that here in 2025, he's cost himself millions and millions of dollars by simply having to do his job, which is kind of funny to think about. It's tough for him, but he's clearly lost himself some money.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, like, if he doesn't play this year at all, Joe Burrow plays the whole rest of the way. They want to keep Jake Browning around for 2026. Yeah, what he did in 2023. That's what it is. If you're a backup, you have a few opportunities, you go in there, produce, they're going to want you to be a backup. But then if you go back out there and you struggle as bad as Jake Browning, I can't see an NFL team wanting or having confidence in him being a backup.
All right. Well, let me hop off here because my arm's about to die.
Yeah, no, hey, Reed, I appreciate you hopping on. I know everybody was excited to see it. We missed you on Off the Bench. We'll see you again next week. Maybe I'll get you to be a guest on my show. I know you keep dancing around that, but maybe someday. Hopefully soon. Maybe tomorrow.
Well, I think this was your show. I saw the intro on this little live thing. I think you're just pubbing the Stone Shield show. Yeah. Hey, I respect the hustle, brother. I got to get back on board. See you.
All right, see you, brother. All right, that is Reed Mouse. The Bengals have traded for Joe Flacco. How about that? Now, we're flying by the seat of our pants here. I'm doing this myself. I'm producing this myself. I know Craig Sandlin. I was talking to him before we hopped on with Reed. I know he's got some interest in hopping on and giving some of his thoughts here. So as we are live here, I'm going to try to do some multiple things at once and try to send him a link and see if we can't get Craig Sandlin on the show. But that is the news of the afternoon. We speculated this morning. We were kind of making the jokes of, continuing to refresh our phone, try to figure out, hey, had the Bengals made a move yet? And they simply were not doing that. But finally, here about, an hour or so ago here at this point, the Bengals make a move, and Joe Flacco is going to be the guy here in Cincinnati. I think there's reason to be excited about it, to be completely honest with you. I do think there is reason to be excited about it. Are the Bengals going to go on and, win the Super Bowl or make the playoffs? I don't know about that, but I think there's definitely reason to be excited. It looks like Craig is now in here as I try to get this figured out here. Stand by. We'll have Craig Sandlin here in a moment. And Craig, can you hear me?
We made it.
How about it?
Can
we
you
are
hear me?
live. Yes.
Let's go.
How about it? How we doing?
Look at you, man. An absolutely professional, bringing me in on the fly.
Yeah.
Had a chance to tune in there at the end with you and Reed. Appreciate you guys getting live and talking about this, and a lot of exciting things happening. I know Bengals fans, I think, were looking for the Bengals to do something. I don't know if Joe Flacco was the first choice for most fans, but I think it's definitely an upgrade at this point.
Absolutely. It looks like somebody's helping us out. I don't know if it's Casey or whoever, but somebody just threw a quote up on the screen. I'm going to read it real quick, and then we'll get back to what we were talking about. But it's from Adam Schefter, and the tweet says, Bengals would like their new quarterback, Joe Flacco, to be ready to play Sunday at Green Bay. What are your immediate thoughts on that? I thought that's what they were going to do. Reed kind of had a different point of view there. He thought maybe they would wait it out another week, but I think this is the right call. What say you?
Yeah, well, we heard from Zach Taylor yesterday during his media availability talk about how he wanted to have a decision by Wednesday morning's practice. So here we are on Tuesday. They've made their move. They've got their guy. They went out and they got a veteran that they believe can go out and learn this system quickly. Now, the problem with Jake Browning is that they oversimplified this offense and they put him in a position where he didn't go through any progressions in order to truly make a decision when it came to where to throw the ball. And I think we saw that multiple times on Sunday where he threw the ball to his first read and multiple times that was the wrong read. I don't think you have to worry about that with Joe Flacco. He's going to understand the pre-snap read of the defense, and he's going to have a better opportunity to be able to make the right decision on where to throw the ball based on his pre-snap reads. Now, how big will that playbook be on Sunday if he does start? I don't know that answer, but what I can promise you is, I think you and Reed were talking about, the one thing that we know about Joe Flacco is that he has the arm to compete in this type of an offense. He's got guys on the outside and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins who can run the deep routes, can go up and get the ball for him. And we're not going to have to worry about what we saw on Sunday where they had guys potentially open downfield and Jake Browning just unable to make that type of throw. And so this is a big pickup for them, a big opportunity for them to get back into an offense that really fits what the Bengals want to be, which is a more attacking offense. And I think Joe Flacco fits that and is a lot closer to what we were hoping for with this year with Joe Burrow than what we've seen so far with Jake Browning.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And Craig, it looks like we're a little bit off center. I don't know if you want to try doing your phone
I tried
landscape style.
flipping,
Does
but
that work for us? Oh,
it didn't
switch
flip.
around? Oh, that's all right. We can still see and hear you, so it's all good on
All
that
right.
front. But yeah, so I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Reed. I mean, obviously we feel better about this offense now with Joe Flacco taking over. We don't feel great about it, right? I mean, you're not going to feel great. You weren't going to trade for some elite level quarterback that was going to come in and take you to the playoffs. This is probably the best you could do. But do you think it will translate to more wins on the football field? Do I feel better about beating Green Bay? No. Do I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive with him out there? Yes. But do you think it's going to ultimately lead to more wins for this team?
Well, I think the Bengals were in a position where they weren't confident in being able to beat teams like the Jets anymore.
Right.
Right? I think that's the biggest thing is it's not a question of will Joe Flacco get you as many wins as you may have gotten with Joe Burrow, but I definitely think he gets you more wins than you had with Jake Browning. And I think that's the difference, right? Because what was happening was Jake Browning was costing you games and was giving the ball to the opposing team way too much, right? We saw it obviously in Minnesota. That game got away, right out of the gate due to 5 turnovers, and then Minnesota ran away with it. We saw it again on Sunday, Jake Browning with the 3 interceptions on 3 terrible balls that, again, ultimately was the difference. I know that we kind of talked about it in the post-game show, but the Bengals gave up 14 points on 2 touchdowns where they had to go a total of 45 yards and able to score that touchdown. And that's a game that realistically, if you don't have those turnovers deep in your own territory, you're at least in that game with an opportunity to potentially win it at the end instead of having to settle for field goals to bring it within 10 or whatever it ended up being. It just is a different outcome if you're not giving the ball away so deep in your territory. And while Joe Flacco is certainly potentially going to have his interceptions, I'm not going to sit here and act like Joe Flacco is not going to turn the ball over. I think what Joe Flacco does do is he gives you a more competitive opportunity to not turn the ball over, where Jake Browning was basically giving the ball to the Lions. I think Joe Flacco is going to avoid that. There will be teams who will make plays on him, but I don't think you're going to have the silly turnovers like we saw from Jake Browning and the lack of talent turnovers that we saw from Jake Browning too.
Absolutely. And one thing that, Joe Burrow, of course, was able to do that was unbelievable is he was able to function with a bad offensive line. There's not very many people on the planet that had the ability to do that. Jake Browning certainly couldn't do that in his few games as the starter. Now, I saw you put it in the chat, some of his issues in Cleveland where he was holding on to the ball too long. Well, you can't be doing that here behind this offensive line. What is your expectations for how he's going to be able to play with a bad offensive line, which is the reality of the situation here in Cincinnati? Are we going to see, more quick game stuff, trying to get the ball out of his hands quickly? Do you think he's going to handle that better than Jake Browning?
I don't think he handled it much worse, if we're being honest. No, I think he is. I think you're getting a veteran presence here who's seen everything, right? And this is a move where I know a lot of people wanted Russell Wilson, they wanted Jameis Winston, they got Joe Flacco, and I think realistically what it comes down to is that Zach Taylor wanted another mind on the offensive side of the ball to help them prepare. And I don't know that Zach Taylor's ready to admit defeat as an offensive play caller. Obviously, he talked at his press conference yesterday about retaining play calls, but he needs someone out on the field that's an extension of him, right? Setting that offensive line up for success by reading the defense and pointing out the mic and understanding where the pressure is coming from to be able to move the pocket when necessary, to be able to audible when necessary, and to be able to read pressure when necessary so that if they are bringing pressure and blitzing, that he's able to get the ball away quicker and make sure that the defense doesn't have time to bring that type of pressure. The difficulty that we've seen is that the Lions were able to get pressure on Jake Browning by only bringing 4. And we saw it even at the end of the game on that safety where not only did Dylan Fairchild miss the blitz, but Jake Browning completely missed the blitz on that as well. And I think that's the difference. You're not going to have that with Joe Flacco. Maybe there will be growing pains in the first week with Green Bay, especially with the talent that they have and what Jeff Hafley has done as the defensive coordinator there. But in general, I just think that Joe Flacco is a more intelligent mind behind the line of scrimmage to be able to set up his offensive line for success and be an extension of Zach Taylor and Dan Pitcher out there to make sure that everybody is in the best position possible to be able to succeed.
Sure. And the Bengals are also a team that, in my life, certainly, and probably forever, have been really protective over their draft picks. We haven't seen them make a lot of trades, right? It was borderline unprecedented when they made the move last year at the deadline for Khalil Herbert, just giving up a 7th-round pick. Now, there's going to be some people out there that are saying, oh, the season's already a complete waste. Now you're just going to get a worse draft pick in the first round, and you just gave up a 5th-round draft pick, and you're going to need that because you have so many holes on this team. I don't really view it that way. I'm sitting here going, we got a 2-3 team. Yeah, it feels like we're a lot worse than that, but it's October 7th. I'm not worried about what's going to transpire in April. Are you bent out of shape at all about giving up this 5th-round pick, or you understand that they needed to make a move and you're okay doing something like this?
If this was a different front office, I might be more concerned.
Yeah.
But this front office has not really shown a great ability of being able to scout talent and to be able to develop that talent. And so by making a swap for a 5th for a 6th, are you really changing that big of an outcome when you have the front office that you have with Duke Tobin and the Browns? I don't really know that that's the case. The scouting department hasn't really been great. Outside of the clear, no doubt picks that they've had when they're in the top 5 picks of the NFL draft, which maybe some would say just keep the draft pick and become a top 5 draft pick. But I think we heard from Zach Taylor yesterday that the AFC is wide open. You look at the playoff picture on Tuesday morning, and guess where the Cincinnati Bengals are sitting? They're sitting the first spot out of the playoffs right now. So this is a team that truly believes with the talent they have, not only on the outside, but also in the running game with Chase Brown, even though he hasn't gotten going yet, that they can still compete to be in the playoffs this year. And I know that there's speculation that maybe Joe Burrow's injury was worse than maybe had been originally reported, but we don't know what his timeline is. And to me, honestly, Stone, this tells me that maybe the Bengals think that Joe Burrow can be back this year. Because what I'm reading from this is that we want to make sure we have a chance to compete for that playoff spot when Joe is back. Not throw the season away by continuing to roll out Jake Browning and see what happens. This to me reads, hey, there's some optimism around Joe. Maybe he'll be back. But if we're 2-10 at that point when he's ready to come back, and obviously it's much later than that, but 2 and whatever it may be, 2-13, 2-14, then it doesn't really matter. But if we're sitting there and Joe Flacco can come in and pick up some of those wins that maybe we wouldn't have gotten with Jake Browning, then absolutely, I think there's an opportunity for Joe Burrow to be willing to push his rehab, right? And maybe it's a question of, hey, I could come back, but it's not really worth it right now, versus, hey, I could come back and I may not be perfect, but I tell you what, I'm going to be able to compete for a couple games here. And when you look at the last 3 games of this schedule, I tell you what, if the Bengals are in striking range, I promise you Joe Burrow is going to be begging to come back and play those last 3 weeks if he's able to. So you just got to keep it close at this point, and Joe Flacco gives you the best opportunity to do that in my mind.
I totally agree, and that's something that I mentioned to Reed a little bit earlier too. I feel like if you're in a spot, obviously, the timelines of the toe injury and when he could come back, December, could it, be like the last few weeks, or could he come back a little bit before that? We don't really know. There's been some reports, whatever. I think the team has a decent understanding. They don't know for certain either. Obviously, there's still weeks where he needs to, do the rehab and see where he's at. But I totally agree. If they were in a spot where they're looking at Joe Burrow going, he's not going to be able to come back this year, I don't think they make this move. I really don't. But if there's optimism that, hey, he could return, I think that probably partially went into the decision of, okay, we can't just afford to keep rolling this quarterback out there that's playing horrible. We got to change this up because there's an opportunity that we could perhaps get our franchise guy back.
I have a key.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the mindset right now. And I think when you look at this team and you look at the talent that they have, if this Bengals front office went into the season expecting a Super Bowl competing team, right?
Hmm.
You're going to potentially still have that level of talent going into the playoffs now, right? If Joe Burrow is able to come back.
Sure.
Now, how much time will Joe need to get back into the swing of things? How much time will he need to get back on the same page as Jamar and T? I think he's thrown enough balls to those guys that he could come back today
Hmm.
as soon as he's healthy and be able to throw right back in there versus what I saw from Jake Browning, where he was not on the same page as those guys multiple times. He's throwing the ball behind guys. He's making the wrong reads where other guys are going the different direction. I absolutely am reading this as, hey, we're still in this. And he's showing a vote of confidence here, Zach Taylor is, in this front office is, by saying, hey, I'm willing to give up draft picks because I still believe in this team. Now, how much of that is I actually believe in this team versus just, hey, I don't want to lose the locker room this year because my seat is burning hot?
Mm.
That's the other question here is, what does this say for Zach Taylor's seat that he is not worried about next year? He's worried about right now. I don't know which one it is. We may never know which one it is until week 16 when Joe Burrow runs back out onto that field, hopefully. But if we don't see Joe Burrow this year, my gut tells me that this is a little bit of a desperation move from Zach Taylor, needing to be able to say, hey, Jake Browning was the problem, not me.
Yeah, that very well could be the case. So just overall, to kind of put a bow on this, what's your immediate reaction to this? Was there a situation where you would rather it be Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson? I mean, those are really the only two names that you could argue that are potentially better than Joe Flacco. But just overall, as a Bengals fan, do you feel like this is a good day here after getting this news?
Yeah, I think you have to be happy as a Bengals fan.
Yeah.
I'm in my car right now. I was chaperoning my daughter's field trip to the zoo here in
Oh,
Memphis,
yeah.
and so we were getting ready to leave, and I saw the Chatterbox Sports notification on X come through my phone, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And immediately I started to see the text come through from you guys about getting live, and I was like, "Oh my, we got to get going." I'm excited about this. Look, I understand that giving up a fifth and getting a sixth back might sound jarring. I understand that some people may be frustrated that Diana Rossini is reporting that the Bengals never even called the New York Giants about Russell Wilson or about Jameis Winston. I get all of that. But I think if you realistically sit back and you look at this team and you realize, hey, we only need a stopgap for the next 12 weeks or whatever it may be. I'm not looking for a long-term backup. I'm not looking for anything crazy. I'm not looking for a playoff quarterback because I believe in Joe Burrow coming back. Honestly, I'm not so sure that Joe Flacco is not a better option than some of those guys. Jameis Winston has shown similar issues to Jake Browning in terms of turning the ball over. Russell Wilson has looked washed in the last couple of years. And so I'm not totally against this, if I'm being honest with you, Stone. And
Yeah.
I understand the concerns that, my Browns fans are telling me about him holding onto the ball too long and all those things, but he didn't have T. Higgins. He didn't have Jamar Chase. He didn't have Mike Gesicki. He didn't have Noah Fant. The Bengals offense has weapons, and I certainly think the Browns offense is improving. David Njoku is solid. Certainly Harold Fannin has shown promise. Quinshon Judkins over the last 2 weeks has looked good. And Jerry Jeudy is Jerry Jeudy. But I think if you were to ask me as a quarterback, do I want the Browns' weapons and their offensive style, or do I want to play for the Bengals? If I'm Joe Flacco, I'm pumped up, right? Like, I'm still in the league because I want to have a chance to make one last playoff run, right?
Right.
And he may or may not be the starting quarterback when that time comes. We'll wait and see. But I promise you, Joe Flacco's here to show that he's still got it. And my gut tells me that he's going to be a better fit for this offense than what Jake Browning has shown so far. So I'm excited for it. Are you excited for it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, this isn't something that we, get the champagne bottles out. We're going back to the playoffs for sure. But, you feel way better today than you did, or feel way better this afternoon than you did this morning, I think. And, we were sitting there this morning like, oh, do you go with Brett Rippon over Jake Browning? I'm just sitting here like, Browning's been awful, but I don't have any confidence in Brett Rippon being any better. But, bringing in Joe Flacco, yeah, I got confidence that this thing's going to look a little bit better offensively. And the big thing to me, and obviously all dependent on the offensive line, how they hold up, but the down-the-field passing game, I think, is something that can open up here a little bit. And you've got guys that are threats down the field, and Higgins and Chase, and Flacco, 40 years of age, he can still push it down the football field. And I think that's something that should be really exciting as well. Because Jake Browning, he doesn't have the arm strength to make those kinds of throws, and I think you've seen that.
Yeah, that interception that he threw deep down the right sideline on Sunday, where he just underthrew the ball by 15 yards and it went straight to Kirby Joseph. I mean, I put my live reaction out there, but that was a terrible ball. And then you talk about the T. Higgins post route where he, again, threw the ball behind and over T. Higgins on a post route that very easily could have been a touchdown if he leads T. Higgins into the open space, or at very minimum been a big gain. Instead ended up being an interception again. So, or knocked away, I don't remember. But either way, Jake Browning very clearly showed that he doesn't have the downfield accuracy or strength to be able to do exactly what the Bengals want to do and be able to stretch the field. In the Lions game was a perfect opportunity. They run a ton of man and they run a ton of single high safety, and Jake Browning wasn't able to take advantage of it. Joe Flacco would have been able to. This is a move that I think positions the Bengals to be much more competitive moving forward. I'm not going to sit here and act like Green Bay is a must-win by any means, but when you get past that and you look at the Steelers and the Jets and the Bears, you're talking about probably needing to go 2-1, if not 3-0. And then I think you come out of the bye with the Steelers again, right? So, in those 4 games, you need to go 3-1. And that wasn't happening with Jake Browning. You were going to be lucky to go 2-2. Now that you've got Joe Flacco in the mix, you give him a week this week with Green Bay, give him the game there, and then turn around and try and go 3-1 against Pittsburgh, the Jets, the Bears, and then Pittsburgh again.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. I think there's reason certainly to be excited. Craig, I appreciate you hopping on, man. I know you were chaperoning at the zoo there. How was the zoo in Memphis? Anything like the Cincinnati Zoo, or was it all right?
It's what you'd expect for a Memphis zoo. We'll put it that way. But
okay.
I got to spend the day with my daughter.
There
She
you go.
enjoyed
That's all
it,
that
and
matters.
that's the important part. So,
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Well, Craig, I appreciate you
All right,
stopping by. Folks, give him a follow, Craig_Sandlin on Twitter. He's there with all kinds of Chatterbox Bengals coverage. You can catch him on game days, during the games, and post-game shows there as well. Craig, appreciate you as always, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely, Stone. Thanks.
All right, see you, man.